May all mother sentient beings, limitless as space, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be free of suffering and the causes of suffering. May they not be separate from the sacred happiness that is free of sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free of attachment and aversion. The Dharma is deep and lovely. We now have a chance to see, study, and to practice it. I vow to realize its true meaning. We vow to realize its true meaning. Chapter 9. The Imperial Summons. On New Year's Day of 705, Empress Zetian and Emperor Chongzong summoned the Master in these terms. We invited the two teachers, An and Xiu, to court, where we provided support. Regularly studying the one vehicle in our spare time, those two teachers deferred, saying, there is a Ch'an master, Hui-neng, in the south, who was secretly given Great Master Hongzhen's robe and teachings, and transmits the seal of the Buddha mind. He should be invited so questions can be submitted to him. Now the courtier Pi Qian was sent to deliver the imperial summons, invited the master, asking for the master to be so compassionate as to hasten to the capital city. The master formally declined on the grounds of illness, desiring to spend the rest of their days in the forests. Pi Qian said, the Ch'an worthies at the capital city all said, if we want to attain understanding of the way, it is necessary to sit in meditation and cultivate concentration. No one has ever attained liberation but for meditation concentration. How about the doctrine you expound? The master said, the way is realized by the mind. How could it be in sitting? A sutra says, if you say the Buddha is sitting or reclining, you are traveling a false path. Why? Because he neither comes from anywhere nor goes anywhere. Freedom from birth and death is the pure meditation of the Buddha. The emptiness of all things is the pure seat of the Buddha. Ultimately, there is no realization, much less sitting. Pi Qian said, when I return to the capital, their majesties will surely question me. Please be so kind as to indicate to me the essential nature, the essentials of the mind, that I may transmit it to their majesties and to the students of the way in the capital city. So it will be like one lamp lighting 1,000 lamps, so all in the dark are illumined, light upon light without end. The master said, the way has no light or dark. Light and dark means alternation. Light upon end is still finite, because it is defined in relative terms. The Pure Name Sutra says, truth has no comparison, because there is no relativity in it. Pi Qian said, light symbolizes wisdom, darkness symbolizes affliction. If people who cultivate the way do not use wisdom to see through affliction, how can they escape beginningless birth and death? The master said, affliction itself is enlightenment. There is no duality, no difference. If you use wisdom to see through affliction, this is the understanding of the two vehicles. For potentialities, like the goat and the deer, those of superior wisdom and great faculties are not like this at all. Pi Qian asked, what is the understanding of the great vehicle? The master said, enlightenment and ignorance are seen by ordinary people as two, while the wise realize their essential nature has no duality. The essential nature without duality is the true nature. True nature is not diminished in the ordinary and ignorant, nor is it increased in the wise and the holy. It is not deranged in affliction, and it is not quiescent in meditative concentration. It does not come to an end, nor does it endure forever. It does not come or go, and it is not in the middle, or the inside, or outside. Unborn and unperishing, nature and characteristics as such, permanent and unchanging. This is called the way. Pi Qian said, how is your talk of being unborn and unperishing? different from outsiders. The Master said, "The unborn and unperishing of which outsiders speak is using annihilation to stop birth, using birth to show annihilation. Annihilation is still not annihilated, and birth is said to be unborn. The unborn and unperishing of which I speak is original intrinsic birthlessness and present non-annihilation. Therefore, it is different from outsiders' doctrines. If you want to know the essence of mind, just do not think about any good or bad at all. Then you will spontaneously gain access to the pure substance of mind, calm and always tranquil, with subtle functions beyond number." Receiving this instruction, Pi Qian was greatly awakened. Respectfully taking leave, he returned to the imperial palace where he reported the Master's words. That year, on the 3rd day of the 9th month, there was an imperial rescript encouraging the Master in these terms: "The Master has declined due to old age and illness. Cultivating the way for us is a field of blessings for the nation. The Master is like Vimalakirti, using a pretext of illness in Vesali to expound the great vehicle, communicate the mind of the Buddhas, and discourse on non-dual reality. Pi Qian has transmitted the Master's teachings on the knowledge and vision of Buddhas. It is our fortune, through the accumulated good deeds of our ancestors, and having planted roots of goodness in the past, that we encounter the Master's emergence in the world, and immediately realize the highest vehicle. We are grateful to receive the Master's kindness, and will appreciate it no end." The Master was also presented with a fine vestment and a crystal bowl, and the governor of Xiao province was ordered to refurbish the monastery. The Master's old abode was entitled Temple of National Gratitude. One day the Master called his disciples Fa Hai, Che Chang, Fa Ta, Shen Hui, Che Chang, Che Tong, Che Che, Che Tao, Fa Qian, Fa Zhu. He said, "You are not like the other people. After I pass away, you will each become the teacher of a region. I will now tell you how to expound the teaching without losing the basic source. First, you should bring up 3 classifications of things, actively using 36 oppositions on both sides, appearing and disappearing, merging and detaching. In explaining everything, do not depart from intrinsic nature. If people ask you questions, everything said is twofold. Everyone grasps relative things. Coming and going are relative. Ultimately, duality all disappears, with nowhere else to go. The 3 classifications of things are the clusters, elements, and media. The clusters are the 5 clusters: matter, sensation, perception, conditioning, and consciousness. The media are the 12 sense media, the 6 external fields of form, sound, scent, flavor, feeling, and phenomena, plus the 6 internal organs of the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind. The elements are the 18 elements, the 6 fields of sense, the 6 organs of sense, and the 6 consciousnesses of sense. Our essential nature can contain all things. This is called the storage consciousness. If you conceive thought, this is the activation consciousness. It produces the 6 consciousnesses, which go out through the 6 organs and perceive the 6 fields of sense. Thus, the 18 elements all are activated from our nature. If your essential nature is perverted, it produces 18-fold perversion. If your essential nature is right, it produces 18-fold right. If you use it badly, this is the function of ordinary beings. If you use it well, this is the function of Buddhas. Where does the function come from? It comes from our essential nature. In the external world of relative objects, there are 5 pairs of opposites: sky and earth, sun and moon, light and dark, yin and yang, water and fire. These are the 5 pairs of opposites. In characteristics of phenomena and language, there are 12 pairs of opposites: words and things, being and non-being, physical and non-physical, perceptible and imperceptible, contaminated and uncontaminated, matter and emptiness, motion and stillness, purity and pollution, ordinary and holy, clergy and lay, old and young, great and small. These are the 12 pairs of opposites. Our essential nature produces functions in 19 pairs of opposites, strengths and weaknesses, perversion and rectitude, ignorance and insight, folly and wisdom, disorder and stability, kindness and viciousness, morality and wrongdoing, honesty and crookedness, truth and falsehood, bias and fairness, affliction and enlightenment, permanence and impermanence, compassion and malevolence, delight and anger, generosity and stinginess, progress and regression, origination and destruction, the reality body and the physical body, the projection body and the reward body. These are the 19 pairs of opposites. The Master said, "If you know how to apply these 36 pairs, this is the way, pervading all the teachings of the scriptures, exiting and entering, merging and detaching. On both sides, inherent nature actively functions. When you talk with people, outwardly be unattached to appearances, while in the midst of appearances. Inwardly be unattached to emptiness, while in the midst of emptiness. If you totally fixate on appearances, then you increase false views. If you totally cling to emptiness, then you increase ignorance. Some people who cling to emptiness repudiate the scriptures, simply saying they don't need writings. If they say they don't need writings, then people shouldn't speak either, because speech has the characteristics of writing. They also simply say they do not establish writings, but these words, do not establish, also are written. Seeing what others teach, they slander them, saying they are attached to writings. You all should know that self-delusion is one thing, while slandering the scriptures another. Don't slander the scriptures. The obstacles caused by this error are countless. People who cling to external appearances construe them as truths and seek reality in them. And people who set up big religious establishments and talk about the problems of being and non-being will not manage to see essential nature, even in eons. They can only cultivate practice in accord with the teachings. But do not think of nothing at all, for that inhibits your enlightened nature. If they listen to preaching but do not practice, people contrarily produce wrong thoughts. Just truthfully practice the giving of teaching without fixation on appearances. If you understand, speak on this basis, function on this basis, act on this basis, work on this basis, then you will not lose the original source. If people question you about principles, if they ask about being, reply with non-being. If they ask about non-being, reply with being. If they ask about the ordinary, reply with the holy. If they ask about the holy, reply with the ordinary. The two paths are relative to each other, producing the principle of the middle way. As with one question and one answer, do the same for other questions and you won't lose the principle. If someone asks you, what is called darkness? Reply that light is the cause, darkness the condition. When light disappears, there is darkness. Darkness is revealed by light. Light is revealed by darkness. Their coming and going are relative, creating the meaning of the middle way. Other questions are all like this. Later on, when you are transmitting the teaching, pass it on in this way. Do not lose the essence of the source. In the 7th month of the year, 712, the Master had some disciples go to the Temple of National Gratitude in Xin Province and build a stupa. Although he told them to hasten the construction, by the summer of the next year, it had not yet been completed. On the first day of the 7th month of 713, the Master gathered his followers and said, I want to depart from the world next month. If you have any doubts, you'll have to ask me about them soon, so I can break down your doubts for you and put an end to your confusion. After I go, there will be no one to teach you. Fa Hai and the others wept when they heard this. Shen Hui alone was psychologically unmoved and did not cry. The master said, "Young Shen Hui has managed to maintain equanimity toward good and bad, unmoved by slander or praise, not conceiving sadness or happiness. The rest of you have not attained this. What path have you been cultivating all these years in the mountains? Who are you troubled about now, crying so sadly? If you are worried I don't know where I am going, I intuitively know where I am going. If I didn't know where I was going, I wouldn't have informed you ahead of time. Your weeping is because you don't know where I am going. If you knew where I was going, you wouldn't be crying. The nature of reality has no birth or death, no coming or going. Sit there, all of you, and I will recite to you a hymn called Hymn on Truth and False Action and Stillness. Memorize this hymn, for its intent is the same as mine. Practice on this basis and you won't lose the essence of the source." The monks prostrated themselves and requested the master to tell the hymn. The hymn went as follows. Everything has no reality. We do not see reality thereby. If you see reality, that is a view, not reality at all. If you can yourself embody reality, detached from falsehood, mind itself's reality. If your own mind does not detach from falsehood, there's no reality. Where is real? Animate beings are mobile. Inanimate things are immobile. If you cultivate a practice of not moving, that's the same as inanimate immobility. If you seek true immovability, there's immobility in action. Not moving is unmoving. Without sentience, there's no seed of Buddhahood. Be able to distinguish characteristics skillfully. While immovable in ultimate truth, as long as you see in this way, it's the function of reality as is. I announce to all who study the way, work diligently. You need to focus attention. Do not cling to knowledge from birth and death in the context of the great vehicle. If you attain accord at the impact of the words, then I'll talk about Buddhahood with you. If you are not really in accord, I'll salute you to make you happy. The school basically has no argument. If you argue, you lose the sense of the way. By clinging to perverse argumentative doctrines, your own essential nature enters birth and death. At that time, the followers, having heard the hymn, all bowed. They understood what the master meant, and each of them concentrated on practicing according to the teaching, not daring to dispute any further. Then they realized the Grand Master would not be remaining in the world for long. Elder Fa Hai respectfully inquired, "After your passing, to whom are the robe and teaching to be imparted?" The master said, "The lectures I have given at the great Brahma monastery have now been excerpted for circulation, called the Sutra of the Altar of the Treasure of the Teaching. You all preserve it and pass it on. To liberate people, just follow this teaching. This is called orthodoxy. I now explain the teaching and do not impart the robe. That is because your roots of faith are pure and mature, certain, without doubt, capable of the great task. So according to the meaning of a verse of our spiritual ancestor Bodhidharma on transmission, the robe is not to be handed on. The verse says, I originally came to this land to transmit the teaching to save deluded sentient beings. One flower will open into 5 petals, forming a fruit that will ripen naturally. The great master also said, Good friends, let each of you clear your mind to listen to my teaching. If you want to accomplish all knowledge, you must attain absorption in oneness and absorption in unified activity. If you do not dwell on appearances wherever you are, and you do not conceive aversion or attraction to those appearances, and neither grasp nor reject, and do not think of things like gain, success, or failure, but are peaceful, serene, empty, and fluid, tranquil, and calm, this is called absorption in oneness. If your unadulterated, undivided, straightforward mind does not move from the sight of enlightenment wherever you are, whatever you are doing, with reality constituting the Pure Land, This is called absorption in unified activity. If people have these two absorptions, it is like the earth having seeds, which it stores and nurtures and matures the fruits. So it is with oneness and unified activity. My teaching now is like seasonal rain moistening the great earth everywhere. Your Buddha natures are like seeds which will all grow when thoroughly moistened. Thus, those who get my message will certainly attain enlightenment. Those who follow my practice will definitely realize the sublime result. Listen to my verse. The mind ground contains the seeds. With universal rain, all of them sprout. When you've suddenly realized the blossoming heart, the fruit of enlightenment will naturally mature. Having uttered this verse, the Master said, "The teaching has no dualism, neither does the mind. The way is pure, without any signs. You should be careful not to contemplate stillness and empty your minds. The mind is originally clean, with no thing to grasp or reject. Each of you work on your own, going along as best as you can according to circumstances." At that point, the disciples bowed and withdrew. On the 8th day of the 7th month, the Grand Master said to his disciples, "I want to go back to Xin province. Prepare a boat and oar right away." The whole congregation was saddened and tried very adamantly to get him to stay. The Grand Master said, "Even the Buddhas who appeared in the world manifestly passed away. Whatever comes must go. This principle is always so. This physical body of mine certainly has a place to return." People said, "After you leave, Master, might you come back?" The Master said, "When leaves fall, they return to the root. When I come, I'll have no mouth." They also asked, "To whom is the treasury of the eye of the true teaching imparted?" The Master said, "Those who have the way get it. Those who have no mind comprehend it." They also asked, "Will there be any trouble later?" The Master said, 5 or 6 years after my death, someone will come to take my head. Listen to my prediction. Taking care of parents on the head, eating must be done in the mouth. Coming upon the trouble of fullness, the willows become officials. The Master also said, 70 years after I leave, 2 bodhisattvas will come from the east. One will be a renunciate, the other a householder. Actively teaching in the same age, they will establish my school, organizing sanctuaries and enabling spiritual heirs to flourish." They asked, "Since the Buddhas and Grand Masters appeared in response to necessity, how many generations has the transmission been handed on? Please tell us." The Master said, "The past Buddhas who answered the need of the world have already been innumerable. They cannot be counted. Now we consider the 7 Buddhas to be the first in the past aeon of adornment. There was Vipassana Buddha, Sikkim Buddha, Visvabhu Buddha. In the present aeon of virtue, there was Krakuchanda Buddha, Kanakamuni Buddha, Kasyapa Buddha, and Shakyamuni Buddha. These were the 7 Buddhas. From Shakyamuni Buddha, the transmission went through Venerable Mahakasyapa, Venerable Ananda, Venerable Sanavasa, Venerable Upagutta, Venerable Dattaka, Venerable Michaka, Venerable Vasumitra, Venerable Buddhanandi, Venerable Punyamitra, Venerable Punyasas, Mahasattva Asvagosa, Venerable Kapimala, Mahasattva Nagarjuna, Venerable Kanadeva, Venerable Rahulata, Venerable Sanganandi, Venerable Jayasata, Venerable Kumarata, Venerable Jayata, Venerable Vasurandu, Venerable Manora, Venerable Haklina, Venerable Sinha, Venerable Vasasita, Venerable Punyamitra, Venerable Prajnatara, Venerable Bodhidharma, Grand Master Hui-ke, Grand Master San Song, Grand Master Cao Xin, Grand Master Hong Jen. I, Hui-neng, am the 33rd Grand Master. The Grand Masters throughout history have each had an endowment. Hereafter, you should communicate it through the generations without letting it go wrong. On the 3rd day of the 8th month of 713, after a vegetarian meal at the Temple of National Gratitude, the Great Master said to the congregation of disciples, "Each of you remain sitting in your place. I am leaving you." Fa Hai said, "Master, what teaching are you leaving to enable confused people of later generations to see the Buddha nature?" The Master said, Let all of you listen clearly. If confused people of later generations get to know ordinary beings, then this is Buddha nature. If they do not know ordinary beings, they will hardly find Buddha nature even if they seek for 10,000 aeons. I now tell you, when you know the ordinary beings in your own mind, you see the Buddha nature in your own mind. If you want to see Buddha, just know ordinary beings. It is just because of the ordinary beings that you lose sight of Buddha. It is not Buddha that loses sight of ordinary beings. If your own nature is enlightened, ordinary being is Buddhahood. If your own nature is confused, Buddhahood is ordinary being. If your own nature is impartial, ordinary being is Buddhahood. If your own nature is perverse, Buddhahood is ordinary being. If your minds are biased and crooked, then Buddhahood is submerged in ordinary being. A single moment of fairness and honesty, and ordinary being becomes Buddhahood. Our minds inherently have Buddha in them. Your own inner Buddha is the real Buddha. If there were no Buddha mind, where would we look for the real Buddha? Your own mind is Buddha. Do not doubt anymore. There is no thing external that can establish anything. It is all the original mind conceiving all sorts of myriad things. That is why the scripture says, when the mind is aroused, all sorts of phenomena arise. When the mind is quiescent, all sorts of phenomena pass away. Now I am going to leave a hymn as a farewell to you, called the Hymn to the Real Buddha of Inner Nature. If people of later generations know the meaning of this hymn, they will spontaneously see the original mind and spontaneously attain Buddhahood. The hymn goes, intrinsic nature as it really is, that's the real Buddha. False views and the three poisons are the chief demons. When there's delusion, demons are in the house. When there's accurate seeing, Buddha's in the living room. When false views and the three poisons occur in one's nature, these are demon chiefs coming to dwell in the house. Accurate seeing naturally clears the triply poisoned mind. Demons turn to Buddha, real, no thing artificial. Reality body, reward body, and projection bodies. The three embodiments are originally one body. If you can see them yourself within essential nature, this is the cause of realizing the enlightenment of the Buddhas. Originally, pure nature is born from the projection body. Originally, pure nature is always eminent in the projection body. Nature induces the projection body to go the right way, to future complete fulfillment reality without end. Debauched nature is at root the basis of pure nature. Eliminate debauchery and this is the body of pure nature. Let each in your own nature detach from the five desires. The instant you see nature, this is reality. If you encounter the teaching of immediacy in this lifetime, and suddenly realize your own nature, you'll see the world-honored one. If you want to cultivate practices seeking to become a Buddha, who knows where you will try to seek reality? If you can see reality for yourself in the mind, having reality is the basis of attaining Buddhahood. If you seek Buddhahood externally without seeing your own nature, whatever your intentions, you're still an ignoramus. The teaching of immediacy has now been left to save the people of the world, but it must be practiced oneself. I announce to future students of the way, if you do not see this, you are far, far away. After the master had recited the hymn, he said, you all should stay well. After I pass away, do not entertain worldly feelings and mourn. Accept people's condolences, or put on robes of mourning. If you do, you are not my disciples, and this is not true religion. Just know your own original mind, and see your own original nature. There is neither motion nor stillness, neither birth nor death, neither going nor coming, neither yes nor no, neither staying nor going. In case you are confused and do not understand my meaning, now I will instruct you again to enable you to see essential nature.
If you practice in accord with this after my passing, it will be like when I was alive. But if you violate my teaching, even if I were in the world, it would be no use." Then he uttered another verse, saying, "Unmoving, not cultivating goodness, ebullient, not doing evil, serene, detached from the senses, clear mind without fixation." After the master had recited this verse, he sat up until the midnight hour, when he suddenly said to his disciples, "I'm going." Then he passed away at once. At that moment, an unusual scent filled the room. A white rainbow touched the earth, and the trees of the forest turned white. The birds and beasts cried sadly. In the 11th month, the official of 3 provinces, Guangshao and Xin, as well as the disciples, both monks and lay people, vied to host the master's body, and no one could decide where it should go. Finally, they lit incense and prayed that the incense smoke would point to where the master was to be laid to rest. Now the fragrant smoke went straight toward Cao Qi. So on the 13th day of the 11th month, the casket and the robe and bowl he had inherited were moved back there. In the 7th month of the next year, the body was removed from the casket, and the disciple Feng Pian plastered it with fragrant paste. The people of the school remembered the master's prediction that his head would be taken, so the master's neck was securely protected with sheet iron and lacquered cloth. Then it was put in the stupa. Suddenly, a white light appeared from within the stupa. Shining straight up to the sky, it did not disappear for 3 days. The authorities of Shao province reported this to the emperor and were commissioned to set up a memorial tablet summarizing the master's spiritual life. The master lived for 76 years. He inherited the robe at the age of 24, was ordained at age 39, and taught for 37 years. His religious successors numbered 43 people, while those who awakened to the way and transcended the ordinary were countless. The robe of faith inherited from Bodhidharma, the vestment and crystal bowl given by Emperor Chongzong, the likeness made by the sculptor Feng Pian, as well as his implements were placed for eternity at the precious forest sanctuary. The Altar Sutra was preserved and transmitted to show the message of the school, causing Buddhism to flourish for the universal benefit for all living beings.